bringing you that special election coverage. So right now I have Dr. Motloung, a lecturer of political studies at Northwest University, who will be joining me momentarily to help us understand the voter behavior and give us the in-depth analysis of these elections. For those who are in the US, these South African elections are the hotly contested. There's a lot going on. We need to understand the influence of MK party. Are we in the age really of national coalition? Will this really work? Are we likely to enter right now the very unstable 5 years of our lives? Dr. Motloung joins me momentarily.
Bringing you the good news all day long. You were tuned in to the hottest station on the planet. Keep it locked.
Thanks a gazillion times, Dr. Motloung, for your time. Welcome to Mdntv.
Hi, good morning and greetings to your viewers as well. I'm glad to be with you.
Tell us, what are your thoughts? What's your response really to what is really happening right now with the developments on the IEC leaderboard? How will you respond to that?
Yes, what we could see there is the dominance of the African National Congress, ANC, that is really have declined over time. And we have seen polls projecting it to that 43 margin, and it seems to be panning out that way. This means ANC is losing a massive support, especially in its traditional strongholds. And then we have the Democratic Alliance, DA, that is now cementing its position as the official opposition. It's not really being shifted by any other emerging parties. And then this becomes a surprise on the third place, where we have the Mkhonto Wesizwe MK party that was really formed recently and has really gained momentum after it was endorsed by the former president Jacob Zuma. And this is a surprise for many, how good it is performing, even better than the Economic Freedom Front, the EFF, who over time were really building momentum, and expectations were EFF should really be on the third with a better margin, percentage margin, or giving the DA a run for the second position. But it has been disappointingly painful for the DA, who for the EFF, who are there, I think, at 9 or 8%. And then Mkhonto Wesizwe comes there on 11th, and then DA on 20. Then you have the rest of the other parties, and they don't like it when you say to them, these are minor parties or small parties. But yeah, we have had new parties that came through, like your Rise Mzansi, Busa. Those were split parties from the DA. They broke away from the DA. And we don't really see them doing so well, despite having to put so much in campaigning and effort. But they failed to win the hearts of the people. I think the big focus is on MK and how well it has really eaten up the support base from the EFF and the ANC.
Talking about the MK party that is eating up support, or continues to eat up support, this morning we are told that there's a case currently being heard at the electoral court. I don't know if they've started already or not, where we have the co-founder or former co-founder of the MK party sticking to and refusing to back down, seeking to be reinstated as the founder, as the leader. What are your thoughts about that? Are they not starting on a very rocky place, Dr. Motloung?
Yeah, what is happening in the MK party now is typical of emerging parties. And this is something EFF really managed very well, that there has not been anyone in the EFF to challenge Malema's legitimacy, and EFF has managed also to dispel any signs of factionalism. I think that made EFF be stable over time. But all other parties have really fractured because of factions, and they failed to gain momentum. And this is a risk that Umkhonto Sizwe might be going to. There are two options here. It's either the expelled leader is doing this just for himself, he's trying to regain inclusion into a party because he was removed, and explanations I think were informal. What we had was he's somebody who seems to be now led by ANC to sow divisions in the party because MK was really building momentum. I think ANC saw, hey, this ones might be a problem to us. And now MK, people say this one was pushed out because he was not promoting unity, was not serving the interests of the MK party. He's now going the route of the court because he will not be accepted by any compromise or anything like that. And if he comes back, I think it will be good for MK to follow a particular procedure depending on the court decision. If the court says he should be instated, then they should do a formal process to get rid of him. And that is the end of it. And the second option is MK having to pull ranks and ensure that they don't fall into this trap, factionalism. Other than that, if they were to be susceptible to factionalism and they don't manage those dynamics properly, they may lose the ground that they have gained so much. This is unprecedented, and it's to their advantage that they maintain order, they maintain discipline, and focus on policy priorities for them to garner more support. We could even say if they perform very well over time, we could see MK in the next, I think, 2026 local elections, they might come in as a strong party, or when we go for the national elections again, they might give DA a run for their money. It's about managing a political party and discipline.
Who do you think is going to take over the reins of MK party, really? Whatever or whichever way the case goes, the daughter of Jacob Zuma has been very, very present everywhere. Do you think she's got something to offer in our political landscape, or she's just there?
She is somebody who has been, I think, is it Duduzile you are referring to?
Yes, it's Duduzile.
I think she has been more of an activist on national issues. She has been present in the political discourses. And if she should lead this political party, it would not be a surprise. But the question is it good for building and strengthening MK further? It is now a test of her leadership, because I think people know her as an activist, Twitter activist, and being vocal on policy issues or social issues. But as a leader herself and how she stabilizes the party, that will be her test, I think, in the public generally. And this could be a good thing. We do not see many political parties under the leadership of a woman. And this has been a discussion in South Africa. We have a good party there with Patricia de Lille, and I think there was that coalition there. I forget his name, but Colin Makubele. Colin Makubele is a head, or a face of that coalition. For me, currently,
Sarah,
in terms of opposition parties, Colin Makubele and de Lille. And then Helen Zille is now passé, because she's right there at the top of DA, but not on operations so much in terms of politically running a political party or being the face of it. And then if Duduzile would be a face of MK, this would help us to build narratives around the competency, women's competence and capabilities to lead a formidable opposition party, and see what kind of policy options would be under this political party. I would like that to happen for this purpose,
yes,
of allowing women to prove themselves. And then it depends as well as to who is involved in forming MK and what is their political mental. I would not want Duduzile to be leader just because she's a Zuma without having capabilities for it. Then you will have to bring in somebody who is good, who can strengthen this party and make it thrive. And maybe if there's that ambition, Duduzile to be a political leader, she had to be mentored somehow by this person to transition, maybe in the next phase where she will take over. That's something, like I'm saying, give her a chance if they know she's capable, and it will be good for women in politics in the context
Yes.
of South Africa.
And that will be great for her to be there, not because she's a woman, but because she's capacitated. Let's talk about the ANC dropping so much in KZN. Well, nothing is final. Nothing is final yet. And I need to stress that. But what could be doing so much damage to both the ANC and the EFF? Could we say is also their stance on Israel Hamas war, or is something else at play? We saw the Shembe church leaders come out to say they're standing with Israel, and there are so many things at play. And our viewers are also interested to know if them taking on Israel could have also affected what is going on right now. Dr. Motloung.
This is a leader of Shembe Church in South Africa. The church is more than 8 million members. We are here to support Israel and stand with Israel from the Shembe Church. I thank you.
Yeah, this becomes more interesting because from how I was looking at it, it was not so much about Israel, Hamas conflict. Yes, we do see in South Africa where the population majority of it claims to be Christian, but the politics of South Africa have not been really ingrained in religious discourses. We have a very plural religious landscape and religious freedom we enjoy. And few parties have expressed support, like ACDP, I think Bosa, because Muslim is a pastor. So it seems if you are Christian, by default, you should support Israel. But the electorate, the voter, is not so much voting on religious inclinations. The Shembe, a traditional Christian church, maybe the electorate might have been influenced by the leaders who say, don't vote this party, it's against Israel. But I doubt that also is the case. What I've been observing is how in KZN, ANC leadership has been treating the traditional leader, the KZN, the Zulu monarch in KZN. And the Zulu monarch is one, if not the most powerful traditional leader in South Africa. The narrative generally over time has been from the traditional leaders to view ANC as a party that is scraping away the influence and relevance of your traditional leaders. The issue of land has also been brought in, and over the past 4 years, with how the Zulu monarch should control the land in KZN through the trust. Why I forget the name now? I forget the name of the trust now, but
the Ngonyama Trust.
Ngonyama Trust. Thank you. This Ngonyama Trust is titled and framed really around the traditional leader as Ngonyama, something like a lion. So this means the traditional leader, the Zulu traditional leader, has the bigger influence on the management of that land. It's like territory of a kingdom, and if you usurp that and give it to government control wholly, you are weakening the relevance of that office, of that leader. Now, the traditional leaders have seen in South Africa how this has been happening. I think that they could also feel threatened, or if this guy ANC or government can deal this way with the traditional leader that is strong and powerful like Zulu monarch, they will come after us and we will really be nothing. And MK really ran on that. It has been speaking to say we want to restore the order and relevance and even traditional beliefs in our legal system. The political system should reflect our traditional beliefs. The legal system should accommodate how chiefs and kings dispense of justice. Really, in the past, we had King Dalinyebo who went to prison because he put
Yes.
a judgment or this person should be given so many lashes for what they done, maybe burn their house. If traditionally that system was working or you are out of order, we burn your house, it's more like
Yes.
excommunicating you. We don't want you as part of our community because you don't your behavior yourself, you don't behave as if you are part of this community. Traditional leaders don't have prisons, so they say maybe leave our area. And then the person sort of say, okay, I'll see you in court, and then went to court and charges against the king on assault and so forth, and the king was sent to prison. For me, this was very embarrassing for a
Yes.
king, and how ANC came back after that to really make sure that traditional leaders feel as part of a system. I think ANC failed to do that. And over time, it seems now it's proving to be eroding the power and relevance, the legitimacy of the traditional leaders. I think MK ran on this, and this is why it won against ANC majority. And EFF was not about so much talking about traditional leaders. They went to them, give them symbolic respect. Here's a cow there and all that, the gifts for the traditional leaders. But EFF has not been talking about what they want to do, how they want to accommodate traditional leaders. It seems for me they would replicate the template that is existing so far. EFF has been talking more about foreigners, foreign nationals being welcome, open border. It's more an internationalist orientation more than domestic relevance. Your policy outlook does not resonate with the demands and cries of the people domestically. It seems EFF was more international orientation, pan-African. But intellectually, the electorate have not really, I'm not saying they're ignorant, but Pan-Africanism has not been socialized, has not been enculturated. We have not been cultured to think Pan-African way. So that is something that is lofty, and you want average voter to reach there. So there was that disconnection between EFF and the voters. So in the KZN, ANC mistreated the traditional leader, the Zulu monarch, and they got punished for it. Coupled with ANC mistreating Zuma, Mr. Zuma, former president, has not been protected, maybe accordingly how people were expecting. It seems the system has been very unfair to Mr. Zuma. And I think people sympathize with him. He's very charming and he's popular. When that Zuma machine came and said, I'm pushing MK, it seems like by default, everyone gravitated to MK. And over time, ANC did not deal with Mr. Zuma. I think they were also scared, So it was between a rock and a hard place. You punish Zuma, you embolden him, or you don't punish him. What will happen? So Zuma was Zuma, whether you expelled him from the ANC or did not. The fact that he made and took that decision, or I'm endorsing MK, was already a deadly blow to the ANC, and we see that happening now.
Wow, there's so much to follow up on that, but I'll leave it for today. Hopefully we'll get you back. We're at the tail end. And before I let you go, let's talk about PA, and I'll tell you why we're going to come back to this. PA came out strongly and stood with Israel, but not only that, they're cruising nicely right now, but not only that, they were so vocal that they are against the open border policy. with their Abahambe, and they even came up with a song now. I wish we had time. Our producer will play that for you. They say Abahambe, and here they are, cruising. What could have been factoring to that? Probably Dr. Motloung.
This is interesting. Like I said earlier, the analysis of this through a lens of religion, Israel versus Islam. You'll see the Muslim in South Africa are not so vocal in politics. They do have presence, I think, in Al Jamaa, but I don't think the tonality or the tone of religion is really poignant. We see a very tolerant and a very moderate voice. There was that option for one to come up as, and it is this thing when there's a dispute internationally. South Africa is pressured by the Western countries. Or you are anti-Israel, you should be anti-Russia, you should be anti-Hamas or Palestine, and support Israel, and support Ukraine and be anti-Russia. It is that binary. Say, there's no middle ground. This is on the side of South Africa. And then ANC has said, we are neutral. We want non-alignment. We want human rights perspective to dominate in the international relations. And then domestically, there was that again to say, you're a political party, where do you stand? As if when you say, I support Israel, by magic, you will have a majority vote. The electorate, I argue, don't vote according to that line so much. You have Christians who voted ANC not because it has beliefs on faith or anything. There are certain policies of the ANC that are controversial in terms of Christianity or Christian beliefs, but Christians are still voting the ANC. Patriotic Alliance also, I don't think, and maybe I'll be corrected sometime later, but I do not think Patriotic Alliance did so well because it supported Israel. They might have done that maybe because they wanted funding, maybe the Zionist or Israel France here in South Africa or the Jewish board to support them, maybe. Patriotic Alliance came to significant public profile because of their anti-immigration decision-making of the ANC. They said ANC has not been clear, has not been assertive on enforcing laws against illegal or unregulated immigration. So they said, we are going to the border. One day they went to the border and say, send back people from Zimbabwe or anywhere. They said, we don't want, and that showmanship really worked because it said, oh, if they can do this, maybe they will do better. So there is a very anti-migration, anti-foreigner sentiment in South African townships at most. And the economy, whether you are in the township or in town, has been dominated by foreign nationals from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Somalia, and so forth. Now, the Patriotic Alliance was very stern to say, when we come, we are going to close the borders and we're going to send anyone who is illegal and undocumented foreigner, we're going to send them back home. I think that really sold. You contrast that with the EFF. When EFF was called to say, what is your stance on this? Malema was like, no, we are open borders, that issue of Pan-Africanism. And to a point to say, if you don't support us on uniting Africa, then keep your vote. And this was his tone. And I think people had him on that and they responded. And somebody was saying, Yana, Mina, give me that vote and I'm going to use it to send these undocumented foreigners away. Call it populist, but if it's populist, it means the popular or majority sentiment is that. It's a popular sentiment. And if you resonate with it as a party and you latch on it, they say you're populist. I think for me, that's very relative. Anything is populist. Even democracy itself is populist. So
Yes.
they don't denigrate them and calling them populist, but they latched on what are the dominant concerns from the ground. And I think this is what gave them that support. Lastly, we know Mr. Mackenzie was a mayor somewhere in the Northern Cape at some point.
Yes.
And the guy did magic there. As a mayor, did beautifully, did introduce so many changes that ANC has not introduced. Any mayor of the ANC in the Northern Cape introduced, I don't know in how many, 20, 30 years. He showed that he can be progressive. And if you entrust him with power, building bakeries, building swimming pools, renovating them,
Yes.
making sure there's something positive and for recreation for the youth and job creation. He reformed the local economy in the Karoo. Now, that was a template maybe for another voter. So, if Mackenzie can do this in a dry land, this is like a desert somewhere. If this
Yes.
man can do this magic in a desert, imagine if you give him the city, what they can do. I'm thinking that a voter was also hoping that way. Oh, let me trust them. I think those are the factors that really contributed to the success of this patriotic alliance.
Wow, amazing. And time will fail us to talk about others. Maybe next time. As your parting shot, how will you assess overall conduct of the IEC?
The IEC remains commended. It enjoys a good name internationally for managing elections. I think they keep up to that good name. But the good name does not mean you are without blemishes or anything like that. And as is with the process, ordinary process, you are baking. There are some cakes that would be banned or some mal products there. And I think it's time IEC looked in to these blemishes, because if they don't manage them properly, they could tarnish the reputation of the institution. One, it is the logistics of operating an election. For example, you had major complaints about long queues. And these long queues, for me, were caused by inexperienced electoral officers. Because I see for the last 30 years, more or less, if you go and look at the record, I bet you likely would find there were regular people who come to be electoral officers in the past 30
Yes.
years. Maybe since 2020, was it 2021 local elections?
Yes,
The most
2021.
recent, I think from 2021, there are many people who said, "Hey, my body cannot take it anymore. I'm old," and they withdrew. IEC from then and now had to develop capacity. And I think it brought in people who are very new, who are not experienced. When the queue is this long, what can I do to really reduce that and even manage the tempers of the people on the queues? So that's one thing. They are in a process of transition. And in terms of age, they are bringing in young people who are less experienced. They were not mentored by somebody. So I think IC should implement some strategy to transfer knowledge between the old
Yes.
people and the new emerging people. Secondly, this voter management device, VMD, that you scan a card, a ID card, and know if the person is eligible to vote at that voting district. These machines were dysfunctional at some point. I think, again, it's only late, about 5 p.m. or so, when IC said, let go of this VMDs, use the old way. Just cancel out the person's name on the voters roll. And the lines really went faster. It proves that the VMDs over these last cycles, I think they were introduced in 2021, if not earlier. So far in this period, we know the VMDs are not effective. If they want to use digital devices or some digital method, a VMD is not functional where there's no network. They have to assess, diagnose what is wrong with these devices and get rid of them, introduce a better mechanism if there needs to be. Otherwise, it's all about line management and this old way of recording people. I think that is one. The last part is the public narratives where people, and I think sometimes political parties are being naughty here. They
Yes.
understand that at a voting district, ballots are counted and a result slip is completed. And those ballot boxes should be transported to some office where they have to be stored. And in between that transition, you'll find a box is left maybe at my house. Maybe I'm working as a electoral officer and they put them at my house to say we have to go a bit further, collect somewhere, we'll drop them here, or when we have combined this load here, we'll transport. And then they see boxes at my house and they say, why are the boxes at individual's house, at whoso's house, or a box is lost? But that does not undermine the fact or the results were counted already. A result slip is already there. They circulate images of a voters, special votes being moved from a nylon bag into the ballot box, and they start sensationalizing this. What's happening here? Are you bumping votes? Are you, without really understanding? So it's people possibly who understand or they're ignorant of IEC processes. And IEC cannot educate everyone. I think it's the duty of political parties not to circulate this, or when they see this happening, don't wait for IEC to defend itself. You as a political party know how things work. You should speak
Yes.
as ANC, as EFF, and say, no, chill, this is how it's done. And this way, when political parties come to the defense of the IEC, I think it defends also its credibility. But when you're quiet, when misinformation is being spread, it becomes a problem. It's even worse when you, a political party, before elections, already insinuate there will be vote stealing. You say, hey, when I, like Ace Makashule there, who once said, we know how these things work. He doesn't say what's
Yes.
happening. He just say we know how these things work, and now we know they will also deal with us. I think that is really mischievous. So
Yeah.
IC is in between defending itself from the noise in the streets, and now it will respond to anything and anything, or be quiet and deal with your known procedures. But we do know we have electoral observers who were around, and electoral observers are also, for me, that I met over this election period. They come across as activists. They come to a voting district and say, why is that person being turned away? Why is that person being told not to vote? Is it not their right to vote? But you don't read first when as an observer what the procedures are. Don't you get to find out first or under which circumstances? And when you see somebody being chased off, you go, if you want to ask and know what's happening, but they put electoral officers in the corner. Oh, but this person should vote. Why are they being turned away? And IEC has said this. If you don't reside in this ward, you cannot vote in this ward. Go to your ward and vote there where you stay. Because we have people who know that ward is weak and ANC needs to win that week. And they move from that ward to another ward. I don't know, they call it gerrymandering or something like that. It's moving from your geographic location and vote in a different geographic location where your party is weak. So you are lending your vote there because you know your home ground is already at an advantage. And IC has seen these scrupulous activities and put in regulations to prevent it, to ensure that the votes are fair. And I think those who are observing elections should be observing. Don't get involved as an activist. We have political parties already being in the ear of electoral officers, frustrating them, building tension, and you come as well as an observer, become part of that problem. I think that is not okay. But I think mainly you'll get a positive report. You'll that the elections were fair, were free. No one was imprisoned on
Yes.
unknown reasons, or because they are, let's say, Steenhuisen, a leader of DA, because okay, main opposition. Steenhuisen was never arrested to weaken the DA's momentum. ANC did not abuse his power and advantage in office to weaken
Yes.
opposition. And uh, 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 political party rallies were not dispersed by police on flimsy grounds, or hey, maybe you did not apply for this, you did not. It is something that IEC has to go back and look at to see how do you strengthen. And IEC, it did not do that, because if it had taken a hard stance like this, it would have led to further speculations. Sorry, IEC is a gatekeeper.
Yes.
IEC doesn't want anyone who's contending against the ANC. So I don't know if I'm getting this right on record. Or IEC is in a difficult position. If you act against this way, you are seen to be protecting. And if you act that other way, you're seen to be enabling. Because at some point, I don't remember, was it 2019 national elections or what? ANC was losing. And at some point, I hear Gwede Mantashe called somebody in the IEC and say, "What is this? Why did we send you there? Did we send you there for us to lose?"
Yo.
In the IEC to say, "We're losing, and now what?" And those guys say, yeah. We don't get to fiddle with the votes or anything. This is the voters' expression. We respect it and we reflect as is. So this is that allegation I hear of Mantashe, because now you are an independent electoral commission, maybe have been deployed, or you were supported by the governing party for you to be a commissioner, to be a CEO of that electoral commission. And it's like, because we put you there, you must look out for our interests. You see that? So
Yes.
so the electoral commission is in that difficult spot. Okay, I'm a member of the ANC. Everyone has a right to belong to a political party. In the electoral commission, you may have executive leaders like Janet Love. You know, Janet Love was taken
Yes.
to court because she's an activist of the ANC. Previously, during the liberation, I think she's still a member of the ANC. Senior person who spoke on the law, what the law means. And MK said, no, when you're anti-Zuma, you wabo. So if whatever you do, you'd be said you are anti-opposition and you are promoting your party. And when you allow Zuma, you may be getting, maybe Janet could call, or anyone in the Electoral Commission could say, hey, we've been receiving calls from ANC in this election saying, why are you allowing that Zuma party to continue? Because ANC took them to court, took IEC to court to say, deregister the MK. So that's the terrain, a contested and unstable terrain within which IEC works in. I think it is for them, IEC, to understand the political dynamics, get more people. I see they like a lot law people. You did law, but where are the sociologists? Where are the political scientists within the leadership of the IEC to analyze these things? And when you strategize and plan, you know you have factored in the dynamics that are social or cultural and structures. You know, understand how power, the manifestations of power within society, and also the political behavior and attitudes should be factored in. IEC should take a stronger lead in that as well to safeguard itself.
Wow. Very interesting. Well, that's all we had time for. Thanks a gazillion times saying yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Motloung, Northwest University.
Bringing you the good news all day long. You were tuned in to the hottest station on the planet. Keep it locked.